Now it's time to talk about our only independent animated film nominated in this category, as this film is a significant one. In the Best Animated Feature category, if there is one type of animation that is overlooked by the film industry in America, are the ones that are made in Japan, or as everybody calls them, anime. And you know how crazy the fans are. The reason why I'm mentioning this, cause it's usually complained by those fans who are obsessed with animated films from Japan, as even some of them would put those films as the best animated film of the year in general. But that doesn't mean the Oscars has a bias against anime. Is that it's rare with the exception of the 5 that were made by Studio Ghibli, not counting their collaboration on The Red Turtle. And Spirited Away is still the only hand-drawn film, only foreign film, and only independent film so far to win the Best Animated Feature category. But then came the past 2 years, and I've mentioned this before, that in terms of the Best Animated Feature lineup in 2016 and 2017, there were some complaints of Japanese animated films not being nominated, specifically Your Name and A Silent Voice, which some movie critics, even those who don't have an anime bias, considers those two the best animated films of those 2 years, even more than Zootopia and Coco, for an example. But myself and some others summarize it best. If you're a Japanese animated film not made by Studio Ghibli, you're guaranteed not getting nominated. But then came this past year, as it finally happened, as the Academy finally did it, as they nominated a non-Studio Ghibli animated film. From Studio Chizu, the same company behind the 2012 film Wolf Children and the 2015 film The Boy and the Beast, made their third featured film, and the winner for the Best Independent Animated Feature at the Annies, Mirai. Directed by Maru Hosoda, who did the previous Sushizuka films and one of the directors of Digimon the movie, this is about a 4-year-old boy named Kun, who has just been now a big brother as his parents had a new child born, which was a little girl. Unfortunately, that doesn't suit for him because his parents are now focused more on the baby instead of him. But then a tree that's in the middle of their house somehow managed to be a magic one, as he interacts with family members in his past and the future, mainly the future version of his sister, which her name is Mirai. So Kun needs to learn more about real-life meanings of being a family and to have respect for his baby sister. I'm just gonna say this film is totally messed up. I really don't know if it's his directing style, but my gosh, this film really makes me go cuckoo in my mind. And that mainly has to do with Kun. Without a doubt, he is one of the most annoying characters I've seen in a long time. All he does in the film is whine and complain, all because he thinks about him and not everybody around him. And do you get it why that he's being interacted with the humanized version of his dog in the future Mirai? Because they had to repeat that plot, but with a different aspect of the family members. It does get quite predictable. Even there are some moments that I didn't really expect. But in terms of the voice acting here, man, I've actually done this before with My Life as a Zucchini, where I watched both the main dub and the English dub done by GKids. For the main Japanese dub, I felt like the acting was terrible. From the kid, the mist of the figments of their imagination of the family members, and the parents don't really sound like parents. And it's interesting how the acting is completely different, unlike Shoplifters, which I talked about last week. But at least the cast were legit acting. What if Mirai was a live-action film? It wouldn't be the same thing. As for the English dub of the film, which features John Cho, Rebecca Hall, and Daniel Dae Kim, Good Doctor fans know who that is, not a patriotic comment here, but this is better with the exception of the main kid. I don't blame the acting here on him, it's more on how he's written. Now what about the animation? Even though it's colorful, Mirai as a baby is cute, but the whole train wreck scenes, no pun intended, especially when there's 2 jump scares. Then the mix of computer animation in some of the backgrounds, and especially the trains, feels like it's either rotoscope or early 2000s CGI. I know Japan doesn't use a lot of computer animation on their films, with the exception of the backgrounds, but if done right, it would have been noticeable. Sorry for all those anime fans, but Mirai is really overrated for me. mainly because this is a whole mess in the film, with a predictable story, decent animation if it wasn't for the CGI, and in terms of the acting, it's bad in the main dub, but alright in the English dub. But the annoying character makes me want to tell him to shut up. I'm sure anime fans have seen this, but for those who want to experience a Japanese animated film not made by Studio Ghibli or franchises like Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, and Dragon Ball, this movie is not for you. But if you are interested, just watch the English dub. Before I really go crazy to tell Coon's parents that he needs to get a life, let's go back to America as we go into the highest grossing animated film of 2018.